today we're going to be working on a Adeptus Custodes Shield Captain in Terminator armor. And so what I'm going to be doing here is going to be using a combination of warp block bronze and some of the golds on the GW Citadel paint line to airbrush a nice little rich gold color on this bad boy today. So first thing I'm going to do, after a base coat of Chaos Black spray, I'm going to go ahead and use a base of warp block bronze onto it to kind of just do the cover the whole model, give it a for kind of base layer, metallic layer to make a foundation for that gold. All right, kind of skipped ahead to the finished warp block bronze layer, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So one video that didn't make it to the cut because my battery died was a light layer of Rune Lord brass. Okay, so that's what's on there at the moment. Now in this part we're going to be putting the actual gold on Retributor armor, which is another gold from Citadel line. I went ahead and put a little too much than I wanted on after the end of this, but it all turned out with a shade, so you'll see here in a minute. I probably should have kept some of the darker areas a little more. This is my first time doing this with an airbrush, so that's kind of a tutorial, but also a learning point for myself is the less is more a lot with airbrushing, I found. So on this part I was trying to base the back of the legs a little bit underneath the tunic. You won't be seeing that very much, but overall I think this came out pretty well for my first attempt. So now we're going to go ahead and go to the next step. And for this last painting part, before the wash I will do, I was using a very light mist of Auric Armor Gold. And I don't know if it showed up as well on camera and by eye, but it was just a light highlight dusting I did. And just to add a little bit of extra highlight to some of these areas before I'm going to put a wash on. And I think you'll see after the wash effect, it came out pretty good. But we'll fast forward through this part, and then we'll get to the last part, the wash. Now for the last part of this base is a wash. When I decided to go with the contrast paint, Guilliman Flesh, I thought that just kind of made it look a little more like of a good gold, worn metallic texture on there after that. So I know some folks don't use washes on necessarily after they do sprays, but I'm pretty new at it, so I'm not good enough to get all that good contour, dark colors in there. So I'm just still learning. But at the end of this, I think it came out pretty good. And the next part of this, the next video, I should say, part 2 is going to be the detailing of this model. So I'm going to fast forward through this, and we'll get to the final product of this part 1. And now on to this last part of the model. Last little bits of shading. I think it came out pretty good at the end. I used only my airbrush and this wash. So I think it came out with a pretty nice layer of gold for a model for my first time. No chunkiness, no real big mistakes out there, and it came out pretty good. And I will be changing that weapon to a black staff here when I do the detailing. But stand by for the part 2, the detailing of this model. And as you can see there, it's dried, and I think it came out pretty good. So like, subscribe, and stand by for part 2.